Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to another episode, another story for today. Today's story is one of those rags to riches story, a story that is sort of really heartwarming, and you sort of end up rooting for this person and really going, yes, you deserve it. SubhanAllah, what happened to this guy can happen to you, literally, if you just follow the same recipe, what exactly he did. So stay tuned for that. Essentially, he has gone from nothing, literally nothing, to something really amazing. Without burning the story, and without further ado, let's jump in. So, our story, for the sake of the story, I really don't know his real name, but I'm just going to call him Ahmed for the sake of it, okay? So, Ahmed is a person who has not finished his education, no formal education behind him. And so, his idea of making money, really, at this stage, is literally just doing whatever you can that does not require education. And this is you're talking about 15, 20 years ago. So the era of social media, making money from social media, or the era of trying to make money online, businesses and that thing, hasn't really taken off in Saudi Arabia. But more to the point, he's not educated to the level of actually knowing or being exposed to this information. He's at best exposed to whatever his community or the people around him have exposed him to. And that is just sheer determination and grit. Just work hard. But work hard in the sense that it's not really highly paid jobs. So it's just general security job or sort of taxiing people around illegally, may I say, without a license, that sort of lifestyle. So this guy had no knowledge of how to make money whatsoever. And the thing is, he's not equipped with the money jargon. He's not equipped with just the acumen. He's got no business mind whatsoever. So he wouldn't even see a bargain even if it hit him, that kind of scenario. One day he was sat there and then he realized, you know what, my situation is quite dear. My situation needs to change. But the thing is, I do not know what to do and how to do it. I genuinely don't know what to do and how to do it. I am literally aimless. I have no goal. I don't know what to do, how to do it. Even if I was to ever start, I would be in such a situation which is really hard for me to even get out of it. I wouldn't know what to do, how to do it. So there's all these mental blocks and mental hurdles that just affects him before he even does that. And we all know somebody out there, the same thing, where they see the hurdles, they see the problems before it even hits them. And he was that kind of person. But then one day he just felt this sort of spiritual feeling where he felt, you know what, let me just turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me turn to Allah. Let me turn to God Almighty. And so he went into his sujood. He did his qiyam al-layl. He went and did his tahajjud. And in his sujood, he said, in as informal way as possible, and the people of Jeddah are just one of those sweetest people. The way that they talk is just pure from their heart. There's no malice behind it. They just say what's on their tongue, basically. So this person, instead of going in a dua or bringing one of those dua books, and he goes, and then starts reading page 1, page 2, page 3. No. None of that. All he did was literally, he went and put his head down in his sujood and said, Ya Rab, dabbirni. Oh Allah, sort me out. Literally, that's the way he said it. Sort me out. He said, I'm Ghashim. So Ghashim is like sort of, he described himself as somebody who has no knowledge whatsoever. I don't know what's the English equivalent of that. So he said, oh Allah, let's just say I'm an idiot and I don't know what to do. Literally, to those words. So he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he admitted his weakness. He admitted how weak he is in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he admitted that the guidance is from God and the help is from God. He turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because at the time of need, he turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he kept saying the same sentence over and over and over again until he felt this feeling inside, right? So when you come to make a dua, you'll find yourself just sort of making a dua, fair enough, yeah, you keep doing it. But you'll feel that there'll be one part of your dua that's just the closest to God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? You'll be making dua one after another, but what you'll find is that your heart may be slightly distracted, you may be distracted. It's just one of those things. And so, but he felt in his dua that he's actually reaching that stage where he's actually close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's feeling that dua is coming. He didn't say anything else. He didn't say anything extra, right? Although from the Quran and Sunnah, there are many other ways to make your dua more acceptable. But There is nothing between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the dua of a tahajjud or qiyam al-layl. There's nothing that's going to stop you. Like literally it goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't need all these additional stuff when you're making a dua. So he made this dua. He felt that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had heard his dua. He felt that that's it. My dua is accepted. And then he got up. He felt a sense of relief, but he didn't know what to do with it. Listen, like there's no matrix sort of plug in and you get this information download sort of scenarios, right? So a couple of days later, nothing to it. Then he receives a phone call. A friend of his says, listen, are you free? He says, yeah, I'm free. Why don't you come over? We'll go and have tea with my friend. He runs a real estate or an estate agent office in Jeddah. And we'll just chill over there with him. None of us have got anything to do. He said, okay, fair enough. So they both go. So the three of them are sat down in this office. And then another person, a fourth person, actually a customer or a client, comes in and walks in while the three of them are in the office. And then he sits there and starts discussing the purchase of a land in Jeddah. So he's somebody from out of town. He came in. He sat down in the office. So there's the four of them in this office now, right? So this guy who's about to, the client, he discusses with the real estate or the real estate agent or the estate agent, as we call him, about a transaction of purchasing this land in Jeddah, right? But then during his conversation, he turns to the two sat down, so Ahmed and his friend, and he turns back to the agent. He goes, and these two, they get a bit of a commission, right? So a little bit of a backstory. It is common and not weird or bizarre that people who were there witnessing a transaction tend to get a little bit of a kickback. They tend to get a little bit of a commission. They get something out of it, right? Now, it's probably less common now because people are a little bit, I've just spent a lot of money. I can't afford just to give it willy-nilly to people. But at that time, it was complete. There is a small principle called man shahid al-bay'a falyaqtasim. Basically, it's not a hadith, it's not a wording, it's just a commoner, one of those sayings that go around. If you were witness to a transaction, then you could or should get a piece of that. It's not an official rule. It's not applicable, and it doesn't have to be applicable. But then, subhanAllah, when people are, alhamdulillah, mashallah, tabarakallah, have got a lot of wealth, they're happy to just spread that sort of joy in the sense. So essentially, so our friend Ahmed just sat there, just suddenly woke up. He was sat there dazed in all these property-related jargons and all this property-related words and terminologies and interests and payments and commissions and paperwork and all these different paperworks. And you got to give me this form and that form and this form and that form, and we got to sign this place, this sign here and there and there. So he was just like mesmerized by all of this. But then suddenly somebody's pointing at him. Then you wake up, and then he heard something about commission. SubhanAllah. Like that would materialize for somebody like me. And then the guy finished off whatever he needed to, and he walked off. Then Ahmed and his friend finished off meeting up with their friend, the real estate agent, and headed off home. Didn't think much of it. And then a few days later, he gets a phone call from his friend who actually invited him over to the estate agent. He said to him, "Oh, I need to pop in. I need to see you." He goes, "Yeah, of course. Yeah, pop in." So the friend comes over after the official chit chat, and then he hands his friend Ahmed an envelope. He opens this envelope, and he finds money. He looks at it, he takes it up, and then the friend goes, "This is 100,000 Saudi riyals." He goes, "What's this for? How? What? When? What?" Do you remember when we were sat down in the estate agent? The deal went through, and this is your part. He goes, "Subhanallah, Subhanallah." Now, listen, this is like a few days from when he made dua. And I'm not saying that every dua will be accepted within a few days. It could be 40 years, like in the sake of Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, or many, many, many years in the sake of in the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam when he made dua against Pharaoh. And it could be a matter of minutes. It could be a matter of days, like this is story. So don't worry about the time when the dua will be accepted. Just worry about making the dua. Just make the dua and constantly and be present in your dua, and it will be accepted. How long and when? It was just purely the timing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as you see along the story, you realize the timing of this had to be then by the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that he catches a wave. And the wave here was that at that particular time, and people who have lived in Saudi Arabia, know people in Saudi Arabia, everybody, I was a young lad back then, and I heard of this story, and I know this story. It's way after the 2000s. Essentially, there was a boom in the stock market, in the Saudi stock market. Literally, you can throw your money into any company whatsoever, anything. And I'm talking, I'll never forget this. There was a company, El Mawashi, and literally just had livestock, basically. And that was just increasing exponentially. Were they being in a merger? No. Were they doing anything? No. Were they expanding? No. Were they doing anything special? No. Were they selling it to a big brand? Nothing. Just literally is a company that existed on the stock market. It floated on the stock market, and it was just the perfect timing for it, and its stock went flying. Everybody, and I'm talking everybody, who had a little bit of money, they put it in the stock market. People sold their wife's gold to go into investing. People sold their homes, and I kid you not, they sold their homes to go into the stock market. The idea was that you put your stock market, you buy some stocks, and not long you can sell it for a profit, buy back the house if you can, or buy a better house, literally. And I've known people who have done that. I know somebody personally who actually made enough money. He from stock market, and then he quit a good time, subhanAllah. Now, going back to Ahmed. Now, Ahmed knows nothing about investing, knows nothing about share investment, and he was confused about properties. Now, to go into stocks and markets and bonds and whatever pips and points and whatever the whole trading world is, right? He knows nothing of that. But just as I said, it was so easy. Just go into the bank, open up a investment wallet or an investment account, as it's called here, and just let an account broker deal with it for you. And he just pick up a phone, speak to a friend. They say do this, say do that, and he'll just instruct his broker, and they'll execute whatever the trade is. And subhanAllah, as I said, the stock market was just flourishing. Literally, it was flourishing. It was unbelievable. Right now, this guy is seeing a miracle before his eyes. He made the dua, and not long now, he's investing 100,000. Like, this guy is all or nothing. He didn't leave any part of that 100,000 for his family, for anything. He took it all in. He put that entire money into the stock market. He said, "Live rich or die trying." That was his motto. And so, in not long, that 100,000 turned into 800,000 Saudi riyals. And then he was creeping. And in his head, he had this 1 million. He had this abstract number in his head. He said, "I'd like to reach 1 million." And from experience, please, if you were to invest, have a realistic goal, have a realistic investment goal, and don't start throwing and plucking numbers from the air out of ego. If that's million, there's some merit to that, perfect. But if it's just an egotistic thing that you just want that number to hit the seven figure, something, stop there, right? So this guy, he reached 800,000. He had the 1 million goal in his head, and he thought, you know what? Let me reach 1 million. But at the same time, there was this thought, there's this sound in his head that says, "Look, Ahmed, pull your money out. Pull your money out." Honestly, just pull. He just felt this urge one day after another, just pull your money out. And he went, and he was able to sell everything, right? Rules were much more relaxed. 800,000 riyals worth of stocks is not an easy amount to just sell in the market. But I don't know, the rules were much more relaxed, or something allowed him, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obviously, that the rules allowed him to actually sell all these stock. This is 800,000 riyals worth of stock. It's not easy to just dispose of. But as I was saying, there was just a huge demand for any stock whatsoever. So you can sell very easily, and it will be snapped up very quickly. Or the execution will go up very quickly without any hindrance. Now, he sold at 800,000. he got 800,000 back in his account, right? This is back into his own personal account. And within 1 week, the stock market collapsed. It was a huge bubble that just collapsed. People went into the mental institutions after that. Think about that person who sold his house, his wife's gold, his savings, and everything he had to go into the stock market. But he timed it so wrong. And then the market collapsed. For those with weak iman, or for those who do not accept the qada and the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this will knock you. This will knock you. And even with faith, you really have to be a really strong, resilient person. And that's why with investments, only put your money, only invest in assets. And that's why with investments, you've really got to be careful where you invest, but also you've got to accept the fact that there will be a degree of loss. And can you handle that loss? Is there a stop loss that you can do somewhere to mitigate the losses? Is there anything you can do? Is there whatever you can do to reduce the loss? Do it. Okay. So this guy left the market by the decree and the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he just looked at his wealth in his bank and realized, Ya subhanallah, Allah just saved me from this collapse. And for him, it was just like a zero back to zero, which he would have lived okayish with it, but for others, they wouldn't have been able to handle it. And so when the market collapsed, people turn to the next best thing, right? They go back to property. And then Jeddah was booming in the property market now. Things are opening up in Jeddah, and there were more lands being available. There were more plots of lands being readied by the government. And so with his entire wealth, like I'm telling you, this guy's all or nothing. I wouldn't advise that. I generally would say, leave some money for yourself, right? But this guy was an all or nothing. I'm sure he just skimmed the top and put 800,000 Saudi riyals into the property market, into land actually. So what he did was he bought lands at 70 to 80,000 riyals each. So on average, he's just got about 10 lands or properties for about 70 to 80,000 Saudi riyals. And, for those people who were scared of going into the market, they had that money and they went into the property. And with this demand, the property market boomed. And he said, in a matter of no time, like literally very, very soon after, you're talking about each property that went from 70,000 riyals all the way to 700 Saudi riyals each, times 10. That's your 7 million, 8 million Saudi riyals there. Subhanallah. Now bear in mind, this is a guy that came from nothing. Literally, he kickstarted his journey into wealth and investment from a dua. That was the starting point. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put him in the right place, in the right situation, in the right location, in the right guidance, and the right people on his way that guided him towards this wealth. And remember, do not take the dua lightly, but also make sure that you make a dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts righteous people on your path, because you can't do without guidance of people out there. And for these people to be there at the right place at the right time to guide you, to push you towards the right direction, it's just a treasure from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's truly a provision that is so seldomly underrated. It's so seldomly unspoken about, and it's so unrated. And I remember this, it's like literally, you would rather have somebody there, a true friend, somebody who knows what they're talking about to guide you than just randomly doing things on your own. Right, so the story didn't end there. Now this guy has got about 7-8 million Saudi riyals, right? Again, the guy, despite all of this, despite all these interactions, despite all where he is right now, he wasn't too sure what he wanted to do with all that money. So with that 7-8 million riyals, he went and saw a land in Shara Hira. Shara Hira is one of those pivotal sort of arteries of Jeddah. and he found a plot of land there. So he went all in again. He went and put his money on buying a plot of land, but his intentions there was to actually build a skyscraper on that piece of land. He just wanted to fulfill this dream inside him now that this is everything's possible with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he went and decided to put that. He bought that plot of land. Then he started the motion and the paperwork needed for him to build a skyscraper. But little did he know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had a different plan for him. But also little did he know that there were other people who actually had that plot of land on site for their project. It just so happened by the decree and the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who put him in the right place and guided him to the right timing of things, that he was able to get to that land before them. He buys this land. So they come to offer to buy this land for multiples of what he paid for it. And alhamdulillah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a true story about a brother who actually lives in Jeddah right now. I don't know what his name is. This is the story how I received it. But it is so inspiring, it's so fulfilling that you can just know as a true Muslim, as a true believer, that with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala there's nothing impossible. And with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala you don't need to be formal. You don't need a book to read to go and make a dua to follow a certain particular thing. The best of du'as are the one that comes straight from your heart, literally just straight from your heart. You make that dua and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his guidance, for his help. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do that. Allah will pave the path. Make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts righteous people along your path to help you and guide you. Right? You need the guidance, you need the help of those people who are experts in the field. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. This concept or this ayah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, is always referred to when you're talking about Islamic related things. But I have seen this ayah being expanded to include the meanings of go to the experts of an industry before you go in. It's nice to take the opinion of mom, dad, brothers, sisters, family, friends who love you. But 9 times out of 10, their advice will be out of emotion and love for you rather than a realistic experience. There's always an auntie who always knows somebody who did something, right? There's always these case scenarios, but you can't do away with a mentor. You can't do away with a teacher. You can't do away with a course. You can't do away with people who've already gone through that field and getting their opinion. That will save and shave off years of learning. And wisdom is defined by not falling for the same mistake other people have done, right? And then there's this motion of action, doing things, right? Moving, picking up the phone, sending that email, finding that form, applying, doing this, attending this course, attending that seminar, attending these little group networking meets in your industry. At the moment, we live in a time where it's impossible not to be exposed to the information you want in the field that you're in. With the advancement of AI, you can literally have businesses and business plans and everything set up for you. So literally you've got, we have got no excuse from succeeding and bettering ourselves. I hope you found this story inspiring at the very least, and I would be truly honored if you hit the subscribe button, share this message, share it. I mean, and you share the video, amazing. Will do great for the algorithm, but just share this idea, inspire people, be a source of inspiration for the people around you. Bit factual, right? Don't add spices or don't add details. I kept it as raw as possible. I look forward to you joining me on the next story. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.